welcome to a new episode of the Tell Muses podcast. This is a podcast by storytellers, with storytellers, for storytellers, and for anyone interested in the art of oral word. So today, our news comes all the way from Italy, close to where Simone lives, or not, we'll find out soon, and her name is Giovanna Conforto. Hello and
Hello,
welcome.
hello, hello.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So, where, Giovanna, in Italy are you situated exactly?
I am situated in a teeny tiny little village on the top of a mountain in the Apennines between Florence and Bologna. It
Ooh,
is
sounds idyllic.
a small hamlet of 300 souls in a in the mountains. Yes, very beautiful place,
Oh,
very
it
fairy tale like place.
does sound beautiful indeed.
Yeah.
So, Giovanna, I'd like to begin our interview with the question I usually give our muses here. And it's a very open ended question. You can take it any way you like in relation to storytelling, of course. So, for people who don't know you, like myself, and I'm very pleased to get to know you better, will you please tell us in your own words who Giovanna Conforto is?
Mm. Oh, yes, of course. I'd love to, like all storytellers. So I was, my professional career starts between science and theater. So I've always been fond of science. So I started studying engineering in university. But after 2 years, I left and I went to drama school in Rome. So it's always been let's say, a mixed career. I've never been just a one thing person. I've always been spreading all over the place. And then I went to drama school and I finished drama school and I wasn't very pleased with that. So I became a theater educator. And soon after I became a drama educator, I started working with people with different abilities. And there is where I discovered storytelling. Because my first day with my teaching, I was there with my superscripts, but I just found out that the people that were in front of me were not able to read and write, most of them. So my scripts were use of nothing. And so I just started telling the story that was in the script. And I saw that the effect of telling the story was completely different of the one of reading the story. And at least with the people I started working with. So that's where I started storytelling. And since then I've been in love with storytelling and I never went back to theater really. And it was the year 2002.
That's very nice. And what kind of stories did you start telling? And what kind of stories do you like telling?
Well, that year I think the first year I told the Uburwa, and then it was Cyrano de Bergerac because of course it was a drama course. It was a drama course funded by the municipality of Rome for people, for young people with different abilities. So I started telling those stories. And then but I didn't tell them professionally. I just told them with my groups. And then I went to Palestine during in 2003 during the second Intifada. And when I came back, um, people asked me to tell what I had lived. At those times, well, they're not very different from now, but there were tanks in front of the Church of Nativity in Bethlehem. And because I'm not an analyst. I know it's very controversial to speak about this now, but and many members of my family are of Jewish religion and Israeli nationality. It was difficult for me to tell what I had seen, and so I started telling a story. And the story is the first story I told in public, let's say in wide public, and it's the Little Lantern by Ghassan Kanafahani. And it is a story of a princess who needs to bring the son back to the castle in order to save her kingdom. And after many adventures, she finds out that the only way to bring the son back to her castle is to have the walls that protect, let's say protect the castle need to be broken and to fall down. And so because when I was in Palestine, they were building the wall, and I was in a UNRWA hospital sleeping, and every day my horizon was shorter because what I saw from my windows was was different, and so the wall was very important for me. And the lady who ran the place where I was giving my workshops, she gave me this story that was not yet translated in any other language than Arabic at that time, and it was 2 pages just of photocopied paper, and I brought it back. I had it translated first to English, and then I started telling this story. And this was the first, let's say, professional, I don't know, not professional, but I mean public event I ever had in stories, and it was in 2003. And from there, I started adding other stories. Yeah, but uh, but for me, stories, I I wouldn't. I always say I'm more an applied storyteller than a. I'm not a performative storyteller. I'm not really interested in performance, and I don't really care to tell stories for the sake of them. I like to tell stories that connect to something else. For me, stories are bridges more than anything else.
Before you go any deeper into that, I have many questions falling on my head one after another while I hear you talk. So um, I'll start from the end to the beginning by saying, firstly, that I totally understand what you're saying when you talk about controversiality when it comes to talking about the situation in Palestine. I mean, Simona and I have been in this situation, even though I don't have immediate family. I have very close friends of both religions and different nationalities. And I think that controversial subjects is what we need to talk most about. This is what storytelling is there for, to talk about the difficult things. We cannot do otherwise. And as long as you talk about it as a human being and not a fanatic, I think it's going to be fine.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, the Little Lantern for me has been a place in which for me stories are spaces, and places are in some way safe spaces, because I mean my heart is with Palestine, but and I've been there. I have very dear friends. I'm still in contact. My cousin lives there. I mean, and he works in a charity bringing music to Palestinian children, and but to fight, uh, especially if you're here, in the other side of the world, and if fighting with the other human beings about who's right and who's wrong, to me, in this moment of my life, does not feel like the right thing to do.
Yes,
But
absolutely. It never does. It never
mm,
feels right.
mm.
Um, the second question I had formed in my head while I was hearing you talk about your experiences is, in how many languages do you tell, Giovanna?
I tell in Italian, I tell in English, I tell in French, and I thought I could not tell in German, but I was invited in a festival in Germany, and I had a translator. And at a certain moment, I started speaking German. I lived 2 years in Germany, but I thought I had forgotten all my German, and my translator was looking at me like if I were crazy because so I also tell a little bit in German when I'm in a state of grace that I don't know where it comes from.
I see. How nice. I think it's the stories. The stories draw
Yeah, I
you
think so
in.
too. And they say
You
that they
just
come
get
from a
carried
different
away.
place of the
Yeah,
brain. It's the limbic memory. It's not the frontal part
exactly.
of the brain memory. So it's another
Not the
memory that,
logical part, yes.
yeah.
And when you're taken in, when you're absorbed in the
Yeah.
story, you stop thinking about it and it just flows. So
Hmm.
this is probably what
That's it.
surprised
Yeah.
your otherwise obsolete translator.
Yeah.
I see. How nice. Okay, and the first question I thought of asking you when you first started talking about it is your engineering past. Has
Mm.
it left something to you? Do you combine it in stories? Do you see elements of it?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, I'll tell you what happened recent. I've been working in communication of science since 2013 now. So I've been in European projects about communication of science through theater and storytelling. And one fantastic problem project is in Greece. When our main partner is Science View, based in Athens, and so that project created the guidelines, the European guidelines for the creative teaching of science, and I am one of the authors of this publication. And recently we have created a worldwide group, let's say group, yes, of storytellers for science, and we meet once every 2 months, and we look at strategies to yes to do what we're doing, and especially people, we help each other, and see what we can do to do that, to promote the communication of science through storytelling.
Sounds wonderful. If you do come to Greece, please come and find me.
Yeah, 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 I will. Mm. Yeah.
How do you work putting together science and storytelling? So, do you try to tell stories that, for example, include some elements of science that can explain science? Is it something like putting together STEM subjects and storytelling explaining the subject through the story? Or do you do it any other way?
Well, I used to do it very, let's say, from a very wide point of view, because I'm not a scientist. Although it's funny because my parents were both physicists, so I mean, I've been brought up with science, and I always say I can work with this because although I'm an artist, I don't freak out if I see a formula. So, and but I'm not a scientist. So but all my colleagues do a wonderful thing. For example, Bruce Kirchhoff, he's written books. He helps scientists tell their research to general public. And I've also been doing this for the National Institute of National Physics, no, of Nuclear Physics, NIFN in Italian, ENFN, and yeah, working with the scientists, because there's some studies that now there's less and less funding for science, mainly because science is always more complex, and scientists have difficulties uh, explaining why they need the funding and what they can do with this science. And there's been a big storytelling and science project in Canada that has brought uh, climate change among the most important topics of the government, because of this, because of being able to help scientists explain what they're talking about. Especially now that, I mean, it's completely non intuitive, anti-intuitive, counterintuitive now, physics. I mean, what was flat is now not flat, and so on and so on. So it needs a new language, it needs new metaphors, and this is what fascinates me the most. And of course, then there's a lot of stories that tell about science. Recently I was in this meeting with a colleague was telling us that he told the story of Icarus and Daedalus, telling that it's impossible what happened because the temperature of the while you go up in the sky, the temperature lows, and you cannot get so close to the sun for the wings, for the wax wings to melt before there's not enough oxygen for you to breathe. So that story is not scientifically possible. And I love these things, no, to see the science in the story. And he went to a science festival telling this story, and yeah, and kneeling all the science around it. And this is one of the
Okay,
I
just to play the devil's advocate here, he was
hmm?
supposed, Icarus, to be flying upwards towards the sun where it got hotter, which is scientifically impossible, but also lower down towards the sea where the wings would get wet. So
Okay,
that might
that
explain it.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, could be, yeah. I'm
To
not
the
an
story.
expert. Anyhow, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, I think it's genius. I never thought about it. No, I mean, it's a legend. It's a myth, and you usually take it for what they are. And I mean, a bit like the Bible. You don't go there and you say, no, this animal was not there at that time. Or maybe some people do. I don't. I take the stories for what they are usually. I don't
Yeah,
analyze them.
some people like us do, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah,
For today, speaking
yeah,
about stories, do you think we could have a story from you?
yes. I think I can have a story from me, and yes, I wanted to share one of the first stories I told, and has been with me for a long time because I'm going through some strange times myself. It's been 4 years now. I'm on a cancer journey, and of course this affects my life in certain ways, also bringing some more creativity, different creativity. So I'm more writing. I don't perform at all. I have not been performing at all in the last 4 years, but I've been writing. I've been coaching storytellers to tell stories. I've been following projects and doing things that I can do from home. Um, but so this story is a story I'd like to tell. And it's a very, very famous Italian story. It's by the Italo Calvino. It's the story of the happy man's shirt. And it goes like this. Once upon a time, there was a king. And this king was a very happy king. He had everything he wanted. But one day, his son fell ill. So they called all the doctors and all the wise people from near and far to try and heal the son. But nobody was able to help him. Every person who came shook their head and said, "There is nothing we can do. We are sorry," and left. But one day came an old man with a long white beard and said, "Oh, I can help the king. I can help the king." Okay, come in. Do come in. And so he was brought in front of the king. He kneeled and he said, "I know what your son needs. Your son needs to wear the shirt of a happy man." Oh, but that's so easy. I can do that. There is absolutely no problem. I will go and find the shirt of a happy man. So he had put a saddle on his horse and he went by himself. Cataplop, 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 cataplop. He started going from village to village and looking for a happy man. Until they told him, "Oh, yes, there is a happy man on the top of the top of the hop of the top of the top of the highest mountain. There is a monk, a holy man. He is very happy." So the king, he goes up, starts the narrow streets going up the mountain, cataplop, 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 and then it becomes always more narrow and more steep, cataplop, 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 until he's in front of the holy man and he bows and says, "I have heard you are a happy man." "Oh, yes, indeed I am." I am here among nature. I am connected with God directly, and I see it here from my window, a beautiful mountain. But isn't there anything that could make you happier? Oh no, I am happy the way I am. But if I would suggest you to come down to the capital city and become the bishop of our big church, would you like that? Oh, yes, I would like that, said the holy man. And so the king understood that that was not really a happy man. So he turned his horse and cataplop, 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 cataplop. He went back to his palace. His son was weaker and weaker. But then he heard that the next door king, the one he had always been fighting with, he was a really happy man. He was very rich. He had long and big lands, and especially he had four healthy children. And so he went there, he swallowed his pride, and he went in front of the neighbor king and said, Your Majesty, are you a happy man? Oh, yes, I am a happy man. Look over there, look out of the window. This is all mine. But isn't there anything that makes you not sleep at night? Well, all this wealth that I have here, all this power, I will not be able to bring it in the next life. And this makes me not sleep at night. And so the king understood that that was not really a happy man. While he was going home, cataplop, 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 he heard a young man singing, O sole mio, or anything else. He was there singing and he was plowing a field. And so he thought, maybe this is a happy man. And so he jumped down his horse, went there and said, The young man, yes, Your Majesty. Can I ask you a question? Of course, Your Majesty. Do you think you are a happy man? Oh, yes, I am. I have a nice little family. My little field feeds us. We are really happy. But if I told you to come to the palace and become my heir and become very rich and powerful, what would you say? Well, Your Majesty, I don't want to be feel that I'm not grateful, but I'd rather not, if you don't mind. I like my life the way it is. Oh, thought the king, this is really a happy man. So he jumped down the horse and said, I want to ask you something a little bit strange, but please help me if you can. Of course, said the young man. Could you give me your shirt? The young man stayed silent for a moment. Then he opened the first button of his jacket, then the second, the third, the fourth. Then he opened his arms and said, But your Majesty, I do not have a shirt. This,
It's a brilliant, brilliant story, Giovanna.
thank you.
It
I love
was.
it.
I
Yeah.
loved it.
I had read Italo Calvini many
Huh?
years ago.
Mm,
I had read some Italo Calvini,
yeah.
some of his stories many years ago. I did not remember that one, and I didn't see the end coming.
Mm. No.
Good one.
Yeah, me neither. I was like, oh gosh, he's not wearing a shirt. So,
Yeah.
but but
Yeah.
that's a brilliant story
Whatever
I
with
love it.
happened to
I
an
love
unexpected ending.
it. Mm.
I wonder whatever happened to the prince after all.
Well, presumably he died, like we all do. I mean, and but that's not the point. I mean, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I like it because it gives many more questions than answers, which is exactly what I have now.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
yeah,
And Giovanna, um, So, since you told us about how you started working with storytelling, this journey that you've been through, we were talking before recording about your work with Centro Italiano Storytelling. And I was wondering if you'd like to tell us something about um, the organization and your connection to it and the work that you do.
Absolutely. So we founded it here in 2018. So it's called Centro Italiano Storytelling, Italian Storytelling Center. I did not want this name, but the person who was helping us with the communication at that time said, "Oh, like this, it will be higher in the Google research. You must put the word storytelling." I don't like the word storytelling in Italian, but but it's the name of my organization. So it's funny
How
enough.
is storytelling in Italian? Is it
We don't
narrativa?
really have a translation. So we have conta storie, but that's not exactly what we do because we do applied storytelling here. We do only applied storytelling. So we perform, but
Mm.
only in context that are related to something else. An example, we have a little festival in August, and each year we choose a theme that is controversial for the municipality. For some one year they had been chopping down trees, and some people were not did not agree with the chopping of the trees. So that year the theme was trees, and let's talk about trees. Let's see about trees. Let's the So we always bring something that is yeah that is part of a wider conversation in our stories. And then we had we for example, one thing we do is we're not doing it right now, but we did it. We have some refugees and asylum seekers, and they study Italian, and we work with them with stories, and then we integrate them, for example, in our festival. So, or we work with children, and whenever you work with children, also doing education. You're not doing even if you're telling the funniest story, you're creating an interaction, and but the center is, I would say, more social based, and it's a non-profit organization in which over the years I have trained many storytellers. We have a group of trained storytellers, and some of them now make their living from storytelling. Over time, also because of the Italian bureaucracy, we had to divide the non-profit part, which is the part that is here in Portico. The little village I live where I live is also the place where the association is based. And this is, as I was saying, the non-profit part. But then there's a group of us who work also for profit, and that is now called more the School of Storytelling. We call it the Italian School of Storytelling, or just people work by themselves, and yeah, with companies, with yeah. But it's always, I coach most of the projects. We have had a beautiful project here with the European funding with Malta based the head of the project was Malta, and we created a mosaic with the new citizens and the old citizens, with this kind of mosaic which is called Trencadis. Gaudi created it, this way of making art, and it's made out of objects. So the new citizens and the old citizens came together, created the stories, told stories, and then created a piece of art from the stories that have been created. And it's now here in front of the municipality. We have this beautiful piece of art. But yes,
I
I
wish
would
we
say
could see it. What does it look like?
that. It is a lizard.
Mm.
It's a lizard, but it's made like of all objects. teeny tiny objects like fake jewelry or stones, but each piece has a story because it comes from one of the participants of the project, and they were asked to bring something that came from home. Now, for some people, home means 100 meters away. Some people brought something that they had brought back from Africa or from other countries to put in the mosaic.
That's a hell of an idea, actually.
Yeah.
It reminds
Uh,
me of Taffy Thomas's cape, the one he used to wear when he performed. Taffy Thomas, the
Pardon?
English fellow. Taffy Thomas, do you remember Taffy?
Yeah.
Okay, Taffy is an awarded storyteller,
Mm-hmm.
uh, an Englishman, and he has this cape he wears when he performs. It has been embroidered by one of his fans, a very talented person, obviously, and
Mm-hmm.
there are different animals or different kind of depictions in the embroidery. So when he wears this cap, sometimes he invites people from his audience to pick one of the
Mm-hmm.
designs, and he tells that story
Mm-hmm.
of the particular. So it's embroidered all over, in the
Mm-hmm.
front, in the back, the sides. So there are so many options. But your idea is, I mean, that idea is fabulous, obviously, but that idea of having different people bring things is wonderful. It reminds me of women making quilts,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? Small pieces of fabric that each piece of
Yeah.
fabric would tell something about that woman and their story.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of projects, and one of our associates, she is very fond of creating fabrics and Paula, and also embroidery from different threads that come from different stories. And yeah, but this project has been really very beautiful. It's been the first integrated project because here in the municipality, there's been a lot of. We are very lucky territory here, so there's a lot of projects for new citizens, for example, language courses and everything. And there's a lot of beautiful projects for, we have here a mostly elderly population, but it's the first time that the project was integrated. So there were new citizens and old citizens, I mean, and people who were born here and people who were born in other countries who worked together to foresee, to imagine, to yeah, the future of the land, because this is a land in which we're losing people every year. So nobody wants to live in the little villages in the top of the mountain. I don't know why, but
But
Yeah, I agree with you.
from your little village at the top of the mountain, you do so many things, Giovanna.
yeah, it's true. Yeah, but it's possible. I mean, we have an issue. Today is sunny. It's very sunny. When it rains, internet does not work very well. So sometimes it does not work at all, and sometimes we don't have telephone and we don't have, so we get isolated because the antenna is meteoropathic for some reason. And so when we have bad weather, so yeah, so something. But I mean, we are 35 kilometers from Forli, which is the capital of the local region. So I mean, we're not we're not really in the middle of nowhere, but from here, from my window, I see no sign of civilization. I don't see a house, I don't see a street, I see just a bare mountain with trees. And I mean, if I did not know who I am, I could be in the Middle Ages or even before.
Lovely. And I guess when
Brilliant.
you get disconnected from the rest of the world, it might bring the local community closer together because
Yeah.
you're codependent.
Yes,
So
here
you
we
need to
have this
practice.
beautiful festival that's happening now. It's called the village is called the village of the cribs, and each family creates a cribs, and we have this beautiful exhibition over 100 cribs or more than hundreds, and so people come and visit because the village itself looks like a crib. You know these medieval little villages, and it's on three levels. On the lower level, there's the river, and then there's the cobbled streets. Three of them coming up from the river, and there was like the workers lived, and here where the powerful people lived in the higher part of the village where I live.
You're
My,
one of the powerful people, Giovanna.
yes, yes, yeah. Well, and we our apartment has a balcony on the Via Roma, which is the only street of the village, and we have a balcony. So sometimes I feel a little bit like Mussolini when I come out.
Gosh, I hope not. So, does the Via Roma actually take you to Rome?
Well, if you go, yeah, yeah. I mean, it takes down 75 kilometers. It brings you to Florence, and then if you go to, yeah,
There you go.
they,
Simona was shaking her head in a negative way, but you see, all roads lead to Rome, Simona.
yes,
You
yes,
were
The
yes,
right.
yes,
roads
yes,
lead to Rome. We've got
yes,
a
yes.
Via Roma here where I
Mm,
live, but I don't
yeah.
think it leads us to Rome. It's very far away.
Well, one way or another, it will.
Yeah, one way or another. Yes. Well, it leads you to the highway. So
No, yeah, well,
from
from
there,
the highway you can go everywhere.
There you
exactly.
go.
So
Uh,
Giovanna,
yes,
I think you're also connected to Emerson College. Am I
yes,
right in thinking
yes,
so? Would you like to tell us something about that?
yes. When I so when I discovered that storytelling was called storytelling, that I did not know at the beginning of my career, of course, because I started telling stories. Well, there's been a strange genesis of storytelling in Italy. Anyhow, the first time I heard the word storytelling was in a workshop by Raccontami una storia in Rome, and uh, and uh, and they said, "Oh, you tell stories." Yes, I tell stories, but I told it, as I was saying before. I let's say I created my technique a bit by myself. When I understood that it could be a profession, no, that there was something. I was already in my 30s, and I decided that I this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. I mean, it was really falling in love, and knowing that your fiance has a name helped me to understand where to go. So I asked the person who was giving the workshop. It was Shan Stevens in Rome, and I asked her, where is the best place I can go and learn this in the shorter time at the higher level? And uh, and she said Emerson College. And so I looked at the prices. Okay, okay, fantastic. Then my great aunt died and left me some money, and I decided to go there and study there. And I stayed there for some time. It was 2009 at that time, so time had gone by, and I also had a full time job, so I couldn't just leave for the sake of it. And then I fell in love with the technique, because Emerson had the school of storytelling has really a methodology. I mean, something that then you can apply. I really everywhere. I mean, in 30 years of expertise, it really has, yes, a methodology that makes you safe in doing. So I wanted to be there. And then in 2012, I resigned from my full time job. No, first I asked a year of sabbatical. And because Emerson had put a volunteer program, so I first went there as volunteer, and so instead, and I was working from remote in the science in the European projects about science, and then there was another European project. So I've been in European projects for a couple of years, and so I could work from remote. I was working from remote in Rome, although I was in Rome, and so I said, well, let's go. And so my husband had retired, and so we went 2 years there, and then it worked with them. There were some course. I followed the courses, and then I followed there were some groups in the evening, and in 2015 I was first offered to teach there. and I've been teaching up to now to 2025. I've been teaching 10 years there, and I've been teaching in the flagship course called Storytelling Beyond Words, and then giving other courses. I've given Storytelling and Science. It's been something, so bringing all the, let's say, new techniques, or I mean the things I had discovered, or the, so I've been bringing that course forward, and then bringing some courses for advanced storytelling, next steps, and this kinds of working, yeah. And also begin it now, also for beginners with Stella Casimati. So yes.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When I talk about performative storytelling
Mhm.
earlier, you were kind of dismissive. I had the sense you were looking down on it. Is that impression correct?
Mm, no, no. I mean, or maybe it is. I don't know. It's something that doesn't interest me. I find myself often bored at the storytelling events. So too many words for me, if they don't connect with something, so I love to listen to my students because I'm interested in what they're doing, you know. But I'm always telling them to be shorter and to be clearer and to be, because I do have difficulties in listening to one person talking for 1 hour. It's very rare that I can really follow and be engaged. So
Yeah.
sometimes although I mean, if it's broken, so if this, for example, I really have a lot I cannot listen to videos of storytelling. I mean, I can watch a movie, I can watch a documentary, I can look at an interview, but listening to stories told on video, I find it really, really, really challenging. And
Yeah, you should.
so,
This is why we do an audio podcast, Giovanna. That's exactly why.
yeah,
You can
an
do
audio podcast is
things.
okay for me.
You
Audio,
can do
I
things
listen.
and listen at the same time, and then
Yeah,
that can keep your attention,
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
I get what you're saying. I mean, 1 hour is an extreme in the
Yeah.
storytelling world. The
Uh,
only person that has had my attention for a full hour was Shona Lee in one
yeah,
of her
journaling.
characters.
Yes, I mean there are some storytellers that but I mean, thinking that you go on stage and you tell stories for an hour and that is okay. I mean, it's something that I tell my students that is not okay. I mean, you must be really sure that, I mean, you're taking the time of somebody's time.
Yeah,
You must be sure you're making a good use of it.
yeah, indeed.
That's why that's the only issue. I mean, a very a well-told story is fantastic, but I much prefer. I mean, like this, like a little conversation, and then stories, and then
Yes.
I mean, stories. I want to go to listen to science stories. If they're more specific, it's easier for me to enjoy them rather than, because I mean, I've seen so many in festivals going there and telling you these endless stories, yeah, for the sake of it most of the time.
Well,
And let's say
that's
it,
what
we storytellers
you.
have these big egos, and that's also something I'm not very fond of.
Well, luckily, to Simona's experience and mine,
Yeah,
we don't often encounter divas in our world. It's very rare, I'd say. Or
good.
maybe there are some, but we keep away from them, I think.
Yeah, that's what I think too. So I think in some way you agree with me. Mm,
Well, I do enjoy performative storytelling.
mhm.
That's a
Yeah.
different thing, but I get what you're saying, and that's exactly what drew me to the
Mm,
storytelling world, and that's what differentiated it from theater, from drama.
mm,
The thing that you were not the star, you were not the main protagonist, you were just a channel through
mm.
which the
Yeah.
story would flow to people's ears, and
Mm,
if you're lucky, their hearts,
yeah.
or the back of their minds. Call
Yeah.
it what you like. But telling a story for the sake of it is exactly what we do. We do tell the stories for their sake.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
for us.
I
Maybe a little bit
prefer
for us.
the working around it. I mean, more than yeah than the performative part. I prefer the preparation. I mean, when I work with my students, even here with a group, when we organize our events, or we organize our workshops, or yeah, and seeing of, so this leads to this, so there we could put that story because we want to say this that leads to this, always leaving it open, because the mystery of stories, we never know where it brings. And but yes, I much prefer the planning and the constructing, I mean, and that's where my, presumably, my scientific point of view, my scientific brain comes more than my artistic.
Yeah, it's so true. And Giovanna, maybe we could have another story from you. We would love to hear another
Yes.
story.
Okay, this is also a very known story. There's many versions of this story, and I won't tell the title because it also has a quite a little bit of a surprising point of view. So, once upon a time, there was a beautiful kingdom, and this kingdom had a capital city, and the capital city was surrounded by walls and towers. And one day, behind one of the highest towers appears a terrible monster. At the beginning, nobody really cared, and nobody really gave much attention to the monster. But the monster was there, day and night. And the foreigners coming from outside, they started to be a little bit scared about the monster, and so they would come less. And the economy started to become weaker, and so the population was more interested. And so they went in front of the king and they said, "You are the king. You must do something for our monster." And the king said, "Well, yes, the monster, yes, I'll do. I'll take care of that." And so he decided to send the military. And so the military, they went and they started marching. Parabom, 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 parabom. They went in front of the monster, but why? They saw how big and how fierce the monster was. They got scared. Ah! And they ran away. The situation in the city was becoming worse and worse, and people started to become sick because there were no medicines, no more supplies coming in. And so the population became more angry, and they marched in front of the king and said, "You are our king. You must do something. You must take action." And so the king thought, well, if we can't do it with the military, we'll try with the diplomacy. And so he sent, well, we could send the bishops and the people from the church. And so they went there and they started talking with the monster. But when they looked at it in the eyes, they got scared and they ran away. Now, in the city, people were dying because there was no more food, no more medicine, no more supplies, and the people were desperate. And they went in front of the king and said, "You are the king. You must do something for us." And the king thought, well, I've sent the military, I've sent the diplomats. Who can I send now? He had a saddle, put on a horse, and he went. He went, he came closer to the monster and he saw it, and it was really, really very big. So he decided to get off his horse. He took one step towards the monster, and he did not know if it was in his mind, in his eyes, just an impression, wishful thinking, but it looked like the monster was a little bit smaller. So he took another step, and then another step, and another step, and the monster was becoming smaller and smaller, and another step, and another step, until the monster was a teeny tiny little creature on the king's hand. And the king asked, "Monster, what is your name?" And the monster answered, "My name is Fear."
Need a surprising ending. So beautiful.
A story for these times.
Yeah.
That story I had heard before. I
Yeah.
really enjoy the little noises, the little sounds you make while telling. I enjoyed the galloping horse earlier and the people marching now and then getting scared. They're a very humoristic, powerful note to the story.
I think this comes working a lot with the. I mean, the first years of my telling were with people with different abilities, and I also did a project in England with adults with learning disabilities, and talking about, yes, about performative storytelling. This helps a lot to bring the attention because of the too many words when you work with with people, with some people. Too many words are too challenging, and so you need
Yeah.
to break it out with sounds.
Yeah, and if you're a person that creates it well hearing words like I am,
Hmm.
it's just accompanies the image. It fits it well. It's been lovely to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you. The same for me. Yeah, very enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Giovanna. It was a real pleasure to have you here, and I was so happy when you said yes. You
Yeah.
made me a
Okay, the
And
same
have a
for you.
wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Giovanna.
Bye.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Thank you.